What's the juiciest rumor at your school that turned out to be 100% true? There was a girl who wanted to lose her virginity, so she offered a guy a phone top-up to take her virginity, and he did it. Spanish teacher was a former male corn star. La puta está en la biblioteca. That the female religion teacher had been sleeping with boys in grade 10 for upwards of 15 years. That there was a girl in the boys' bathroom giving bejesuses for $10. There really was, and she got expelled. $10. Way too cheap considering the risk. I'm curious to know what happened to the guys. I get why she was expelled. What she was doing was illegal, but what they were doing was illegal too. It's weird to think only one party got punished for something multiple people participated in. Something about that doesn't quite sit right. But maybe you think differently about it. Let us know in the comments if you think punishing one person is enough. A girl got caught giving her boyfriend a bejesus in one of the stairwells of my high school. The government teacher, one of the most ultra-religious and pure-hearted individuals on earth, was the one who caught them. Ended up in a science class with the girl. She gave no fricks that she got caught, and took her legend status like a champ. Still makes me laugh over a decade later. The priest of my church that ran my Catholic elementary school got caught selling drugs in the park. My parents quickly decided public school was suddenly a good idea. Then in high school, the senior directing our school play got caught fooling around with one of the freshman actresses inside Dracula's coffin in the theater loft. Well, I hope it was at least a spacious coffin, and I guess it's not entirely surprising. If you're going to put on a vampire play, you should expect someone to get staked. That's crazy about the priest, though. But the fact that he was making his sales in the park at least gives me hope that he wasn't selling anything to students. It might still not be great behavior for a teacher, let alone a priest, but hey, neither profession makes very much. What matters most is just that his freelance gig didn't affect the kids. Very attractive married with kids PE teacher was fooling around with very attractive married with kid English teacher. We all thought they were just very flirty people, but nope, full-on affair going on. That there's an underground bunker from the Cold War era below the school. Not only is it there, but it turns out you can access it from the PE changing room through a secret trap door. We had a study hall teacher who was a huge hard butt with a handlebar mustache who was retired Navy. Turned out he was a hardcore corn star in the early 2000s. He got fired, even though it was long before his time teaching. I ended up writing a letter to the administration, county, and their attorneys, but he stayed fired. I guess it would be hard to command respect from students when Googling his corn name immediately brought up a pic of his balls bound in leather. I always find it hard not to raise an eyebrow at scandals like this. 9 times out of 10, the students only even learn about their teacher's history because of the scandal itself. If the parents or the press had kept quiet, the kids would never have known a thing. I suspect the same is true of this story. If the teacher knows what they're doing in the classroom and they have their students' respect, why should anything else matter? Old Leatherbrain shouldn't have been called out if he was good at his job, and his students wouldn't have been Googling his history if it had been kept quiet. The problem wasn't that he had an alter ego as an adult film star, but rather that anyone told the kids what name to Google in the first place. We had a running joke around my school for years. If someone asked, "Could you insert a question here?" most people would reply, "I'll do it for a bag of Doritos." This was a school-wide inside joke because a girl was caught sucking this guy's dong in the bathroom. Some authority figure had the bright idea of asking why the horny teen would allow this. She said she would do it for $3 and a bag of Doritos. No one ever saw the girl again, but the guy became a legend. You could say she jacked up her prices since then. This will probably get buried, but it was a legendary rumor that I never really believed. When I was a junior, the principal's daughter was a freshman. The principal had 3 daughters, but she was the oldest and first to hit high school. It was a small town, there was only one high school, and the principal happened to be the most successful basketball coach in school history and in this town. That was very important. The guy could do no wrong, so the girl, by default, had a lot more attention than any other normal freshman girl. She was outgoing and nice, and we were involved in athletics together, so we knew each other, other than me just knowing who she was, like most of the rest of the school. The rumor was that this girl, the principal's daughter, made a scandalous tape with a popular boy in her grade when they were 13. Apparently, the parents found the VHS tape and a few copies, and both families decided to destroy the tapes and leave the cops out of it, as it was a small town where both families were prominent in the community. This was all rumored, and if you asked the boy about it, he never answered the question. He never said yes or no, just found some sort of way to change the topic. In hindsight, it was actually amazing how good he was at it, given that he was 14 at the time. Fast forward to senior year, I had known of the story for more than a year, like everyone else, and I regularly talked to the principal's daughter as a friend, and she didn't really seem like the type of person to do that, so I didn't really believe it. One day after lunch, sitting around talking, one of my friends starts playfully arguing with her about something, and the argument escalated. And then he says, "At least I didn't make a tape when I was 12. Her response, "Hey, I was 13. The guy she made the tape with actually deserves huge respect. Not for making the tape, but for being one of the rare teenage boys in history who slept with a girl and actually made a point of not bragging about it. He could have been legendary among his friends, and he instead chose to respect her privacy. I know the commenter gives him credit for being a good liar, but I'm just impressed that he chose to lie at all. Maybe he was afraid because it was the principal's daughter. But let's face it, some guys would see that as being all the more reason to brag about it. This guy is a class act." We had a Spanish teacher who would keep giving random financial and business advice during classes. One day, he tabbed over to his stock trading homepage and accidentally revealed that he was a millionaire. Rumors about his past started circulating. Around graduation, some students found old newspaper articles confirming he was a former drug dealer who had spent time in jail. Was a seriously cool guy, actually. That would be a good Breaking Bad spinoff. New kid comes to high school, has a funny accent because his parents were missionaries traveling all around the world. He was actually kind of cool. Spoke at least 4 different languages: English, Spanish, Russian, and Mandarin. He was super polite, and everyone liked him. Of course, he had haters, mainly the so-called bullies, a concept he never understood. The rumor began that he was well-versed in many forms of martial arts. He never denied or admitted to them. One of the bullies decided to find out. He was much bigger than the new kid. New kid did everything in his power to not escalate the fight, even took a punch from said bully. Well, guess the rumor was true. Not only did the new kid beat his arse, the bully crapped himself. Most awesome thing I ever saw in high school. Thank you, this has made it onto my list of favorite things to look at when I'm old. 2 teachers that were married to each other were sleeping with students. The husband was the first to do it, and the wife found out and slept with some of her students as revenge. Also, the resource officer was sleeping with some of the 18-year-old seniors. All got confirmed when they were fired for it. Well, the teachers got fired. The officer got moved to bicycle patrol. I think he's ridden enough. Well, I guess that's as good a way as any other to ruin a marriage. What I don't understand is why you'd ruin your own career just to get back at your husband. It seems that he'd set himself pretty badly for failure. At that point, simply turning him in would have been perfectly fine revenge. Some people let pettiness get the better of them to the point they simply self-destruct. I hate to say it, but if that's your inclination, then you might deserve what you have coming to you. This one girl would make those colorful friendship bracelets made out of needlepoint floss for every guy she gave a bejesus to. There were lots of bracelets, like some kind of club or something. The art teacher was sleeping with both the history teacher and PE teacher. She was married to the chemistry teacher, who she'd previously had an affair with while married to the woodwork teacher. I believe she married the PE teacher sometime after I left school. This is better than a Mexican soap opera. Some kid in my year/grade found nude pictures of his art teacher, a female, on a school camera where he went to take pictures of his painting. Didn't have a clue what to do about it, so just started telling people, and no one believed him. A couple days later, he's pulled out of class and had to see the school headmaster about it. They found the camera and the photos, and somehow the teacher was unaware whatsoever. Thing is, the teacher didn't get reprimands, but the kid got suspended a couple of days for spreading true rumors about the teacher. Doesn't seem fair. I'm just itching to know when this story takes place. It's almost impossible to buy a phone without a camera nowadays. If this happened back before smartphones, I might understand why the teacher used a school camera. But if this happened recently, that's such a bizarrely unnecessary risk to take. It sounds like the kind of thing you do just because you enjoy the thrill of potentially being caught, which isn't much of a thrill when it turns out that being caught results in no consequences whatsoever. In middle school, a rumor floated around pretty much most of the school that the principal had a consistent record of assaulting people inappropriately. And what do you freaking know? He got arrested for harassment when I was a freshman in high school. It was all over the news and everything. A younger male teacher, 20s, newlywed, was doing it in his classroom during lunch with an older female teacher married in her 40s. A student caught them and filmed them, pretty much blackmailed them into turning themselves in. At least he was doing it with a teacher and not a student. 2 sports teachers were having an affair with each other, even though one of their spouses was also a sports teacher in the same school using the same dinky office. Rumor was confirmed when the 2 dudes had a fist fight in the basketball court. I feel like every PE I ever had was plowing another member of the staff. That the school district security guard would let you get away with anything if you gave him some drugs. He later got caught and fired for it. If anyone else went there, it was at Desert View High School in Tucson. Well, he may have been fired from the school, but I'm sure our prison system is hiring. He'd be a shoo-in as a guard there. He's already got the basic protocol down and everything. Honestly, I think the more alarming part is that enough kids at this school were on drugs for this rumor to get started in the first place. There have to be better ways to spend your time in high school. The wood tech teacher was married to the French teacher. They had a child. The PE teacher was doing the French teacher. The wood tech teacher went into the PE department and threatened to beat the crap out of the PE teacher with a cricket bat. I believe this was during a normal school day, but it was before my year started there. A second PE teacher got involved and stopped it, so everyone kept their jobs. Later on, the wood tech teacher married the geography teacher, and they had 2 kids, whilst a third PE teacher cheated on her husband with the second PE teacher, and every Wednesday, an hour before lunch, I would see PE teachers 2 and 3 through the window of my science classroom. They would get in a car and leave together. Sometimes I would see them come back, and sometimes I wouldn't. I jokingly pointed it out to people before anyone else caught on, and later they became a couple that was known to students. And a partridge in a pear tree. Teacher from my high school. Girls were creeped out by him and constantly reported him for making them uncomfortable. He was quite obese, belly hung to knees, so the school and other students wrongly assumed these girls were being rude. 6 years later, he's in prison after being caught with child porn on his computer. Alongside upskirt photos, oh hey there guys, I'm from Canada. Alongside upskirt photos of girls from my school. I'm not sure I want to know how he was getting those photos, or how it was even confirmed that they were specifically girls from the school. But it's crazy to me that people were so quick to write these girls off. Even if people didn't want to jump to conclusions about the guy, everyone has the right to say something when someone makes them uncomfortable. And students need to feel comfortable around their teachers. Even if he'd been innocent, the fact that his students weren't comfortable around him would still indicate he might not be fit for the job. Instead, he was allowed to continue victimizing his students for years because no one took this very basic fact into account. A girl blew the whole basketball team after a game. Don't know the exact details. I just know the girl left and 3 kids got expelled. The rumor was that a boys' gym teacher and a senior girl in my class were involved. They got married when we graduated. He was at least 10 years older than she was. My 6th grade math teacher was super creepy. He would assign seats randomly, but always placed the girls in the front of the classroom. Did the whole lingering stare thing and was always trying to get people to hang out with him during lunch. I never did, but he was married and has a baby, so no one really suspected him of anything other than being creepy. The same exact thing happened at my school, except he was an art teacher. Probably not the juiciest thing, but this one I remember because of how I found out. A few of our high school library's walls were weird, sort of a lowercase B shape. So there was this empty space behind the bookshelves up against the walls. Tunnels, basically. Word was, students were getting jiggy in there. I worked in the library, had to move the shelves, clean the tunnels, found used condoms. It was an all-boys school at the time, if that matters. Mind you, the condoms weren't the worst thing, really. The leftover food debris in there was worse. Stuff like chicken bones. You know you've hit rock bottom when you'll give a bejesus for a piece of fried chicken. Either that or that's some awfully dang good chicken. Honestly, I've never met a piece of chicken I didn't like. What's crazier to me is that this student had secret tunnels, and this is all the students could think to use them for? I swear, some kids just have no imagination. There are a million ways for teenage boys to get into trouble, besides sucking the marrow out of each other's drumsticks. In fact, I have half a mind to blame the school for this one. We just don't teach creativity as well as we should. There was a rumor that our female English teacher was sleeping with the starting quarterback, and that her youngest child was not her husband's, but the quarterback's. She was caught sleeping with a different one of her students years later, and it is now known she has slept with a number of former students, including the quarterback. Now people really think her youngest kid isn't her husband's. When I was in middle school, the big joke rumor was that 2 teachers were banging. Years later, everyone finds out that not only were they having an affair outside of their respective marriages, but that the male teacher was cheating on both women with a man. The female teacher moved away and ended her own life. The entire situation was unbelievably messy. It's ridiculous how many of these stories involve teachers cheating on their spouses with other teachers. I get that you probably don't have a lot of time to meet people outside of work, and it's good to at least sleep with adults and not the students, but good grief. If nothing else, think about how it affects your class's education. It's hard to focus on what someone's trying to teach you when all you can think about is the rumors going around about who they're sleeping with. If you're getting into this profession to help kids, one would think you'd consider that. The male principal got caught doing it with the male history teacher in his office. Both were married. Their husbands must have been furious. That within the first 2 weeks of school starting and everyone meeting each other, one of the girls had a threesome with 2 guys who didn't really get along. So she convinced them to make love, not war. Our math teacher in high school had a student teacher she was helping train to take over for her when she went on maternity leave. The student teacher was maybe 20 or 21 and a fairly attractive young woman. So naturally, all the guys in the class had a crush on her. One guy in particular was a super senior and 18 or 19 years old. He flirted with her nonstop, and she would act super embarrassed and blush and, in a non-committal way, tell him to knock it off. I'm sure you see where this is going. Well, towards the end of the semester, he was bragging about going on a date with her and how they went to the movies. Then he went back to her place and they did it. We all thought he was full of crap, but the rumor got around the school and, of course, the teachers and faculty found out. Then one day, she was just gone, and we had substitute teachers for the rest of the semester. We all knew what happened. Looking back, it's kind of a shame that she probably ruined her future teaching career over him. Yeah, teachers shouldn't start that young with people they were allowed to bang a few weeks ago. That's actually a pretty good point. Yes, it's sad that she ruined her career, and if she wanted to be a teacher, then saying no to a student shouldn't have been so difficult. But it's also an odd choice to teach students that old when you were one of them yourself not so long ago. That's not to say young high school teachers can't be successful. Many have done fine by simply focusing on their jobs and keeping their legs together. But maybe try to assess whether that's one of your skill sets before taking the job. The music teacher in my high school was rumored to have been fired for sending dong pics to a female student. There had been subs taking his place for nearly a month. The principal said he was too ill to come into work, and eventually another rumor that he had cancer started spreading around. He had been bald longer than anyone could remember. If you ask any of the school staff what was going on, they'll just say, he's just sick right now. We don't know when he'll be returning. One day in my physics class, everyone in the class pestered the teacher for the whole period until he finally gave in. Some people were still trying to argue the cancer story. One student asked the physics teacher, did he send nudes to that girl? And he finally said, that thing that you think happened, it happened. The student said, so he did? And the teacher simply nodded his head yes. A month or so later, the music teacher showed up in school. Everyone was running up to him in the hallway asking what happened. He dodged every question, and the last thing I heard him say was, I'm just here to get some things. He didn't teach his class that day, and I never saw him again. I half expected a twist where both rumors would be true, that he sent the pictures but had also left school to get chemo. It wouldn't be impossible. I guess you'd have to ask the girl who got the pictures just how much hair he'd really lost, if you want those sorts of details. Goodness knows you can't ask the teacher. That guy's probably lucky he was even allowed back on school grounds to get his stuff. He'll almost definitely never teach again. Hopefully he's a good enough musician to still make some sort of income. It's just not worth it to ruin your life overexposing yourself to a child. A secretary walking in on the witchy old assistant principal, Ms. Soper, giving head to the other assistant principal in his office. It was within a few days that the guy hurriedly resigned, so there must have been some truth there. She was still there, though, but I couldn't look at her straight after that. People who don't know the difference between principals and principals. Neither did the administrators, apparently. Teacher had a mail-order bride. I just had to look up and see if these are even still a real thing. It appears they are, although I can't imagine for the life of me how somebody affords one on a teacher's salary. I'll have to get back to you on that when we have a few more channel views. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.